You're not enough, and that is a fact. It might make you uncomfortable, but it doesn't make it less true. You're not enough because you're bitter. You're not enough because you're angry. You're not enough because you're skeptical. You're not enough because you will not seek the truth. These facts can cause people to be very upset. They can view it as an attack. But adherence to the truth is never an attack. Adherence to the truth is what we are called to do. It doesn't leave any room for jealousy, greed, hatred, or even skepticism. Adherence to the truth is the only thing that allows us to be free. John chapter 8, verse 32 says very specifically, "You will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." I think that in the course of most people's daily lives, they tend to forget the fact that the truth is knowable. The truth is important. It's probably the most important thing that we can bring with us. When watching the previous video that I released called "You Are Not Enough," no doubt that caused people to feel in a lot of different ways. And the feelings range all across the spectrum of human emotion. But it is just emotion. Some people, when confronted with the truth, will not be able to handle it. Other people, when confronted with the truth, will rejoice, and they'll be happy, and they'll look for the opportunity within that truth. And those feelings are going to range across the entire spectrum of human emotion. It's important to think very plainly and think very clearly about what you bring to every situation that you encounter. Shooting is something that I have been producing content on for 15 years. And helping people learn how to perform their very best has been a tremendously large portion of that content. And I've dedicated myself to it in every way that I can. And I continue to do that. And the truth has been the anchor that's been behind it all since the beginning. And when you consider the truth, you are led to conclusions that might be uncomfortable, that might cause strife, that might require sacrifice, because knowing the truth is not good enough. You have to act on that truth. You have to be willing to pursue it. You have to be willing to put intelligent plans of action behind it. It doesn't really matter what your discipline is. Eventually, you'll find yourself on a plateau. Starting out, the plateaus are going to be relatively small, and you're going to move up to the next plateau very quickly. It won't take a lot of effort. It won't take a lot of repetition. It won't take a lot of equipment or really skill. You will be making discoveries of the truth very quickly. You will move from plateau to plateau very rapidly. You won't need a lot of help in doing that. The internet is just full of information, and it won't take you long to digest the bulk of what's out there. And I mean, a guy can go from being a relatively mediocre shooter, or even brand new, totally a rookie shooter, and within 1 year and maybe 1,000 rounds, become quite proficient. As that shooter progresses through his shooting career, invariably, the plateaus will get larger. The step to the next one will get larger. Being able to get up to that next level is going to require more time, more effort, more money, more equipment. Kind of directly relates to money. But even then, It's not going to be that difficult. You could spend $1,000 on a new press. You could spend $1,000 on a new annealer. You could spend $1,000 10 different places in reloading equipment. You could spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 in 3 or 4 different places on your rifle, and you will invariably continue taking steps up to those next plateaus. Eventually, you'll get to a place where the next plateau, instead of being $500 and 5 hours, it's going to be $5,000 and 500 hours. That is going to continue until you get to the place where there's no more equipment to buy. You have all of the best stuff. You have spent years perfecting the use of that equipment on your reloading bench. You've devoured all of the content that you can discover. You've taken classes from every top flight school that you can attend. What do? You're on the plateau. You're a good shooter. You can satisfy yourself most of the time on this plateau. You're a good shooter, but there's seemingly nowhere else for you to go. There's no one else for you to talk to that's going to tell you something new, that's going to propel you forward and upward. There's no new equipment that's been developed that can perform a task better than the equipment that you already own. That's when you're going to discover truth is not optional. Truth is absolute. And truth is the only thing that is going to make a difference. So, what exactly is the truth? What is this truth that is going to take your precision rifle skills and capabilities to the next plateau? It's a truth that some people find uncomfortable. It's a truth nonetheless. And it's the only thing that's going to bring you higher if you find yourself on the plateau where you seemingly cannot move upwards. You see and believe that there's some place higher to go. You'd like to increase the percentage of your first round hits. You could be hitting 95% of every round that you fire. But if it's not 100, and if you're like me, 95% won't be enough. You're going to be looking for a way to improve it. And you will discover invariably at this moment, the answer is not without. It's not out here. It's not with someone else. It is within you. The thing that is within you is the only thing that's going to allow you to move forward, to get higher. What is that thing? We have a force. We have a power within us that escapes all attempts at definition. That is beyond the understanding of our conscious mind. We have a lot of things going on up here. It's very complicated, but at the same time, extraordinarily simple. The essence that makes up a person. If we are searching for the truth, we can discover what it is that allows us to exist in the way that we do. the perception of reality that we have, the observance of linear time that we all seem to latch onto and refuse to let go of. That thing within us, in order to discover what it is, it's not a force of will that you're going to exhibit. It is not a resolve that you're going to demonstrate. It is not a regimen that you're going to adopt. It's not a schedule that you're going to keep. Instead, in order to find this thing, you have to let go. You have to set down the things that you're bringing with you into every interaction. You have to be willing to let go of your worry, your doubt, your self-pity. Every excuse that you provide yourself, every excuse and every justification that you provide yourself on a daily basis to allow you to suffer this life. You think that they're protecting you. You think that they're saving you. But they are not. They can't possibly save you. Because all of these things are constructs of your conscious mind. The part of you that actively thinks. The nature of instinct is built within us, and most hunters understand that. Most people in general understand that instinct is something that we have. Obviously, everyone believes that animals have instincts. People refer to animal instinct all the time. And we are the only thing walking around on the planet that has consciousness that we're aware of. We have free will. We have the ability to think and do as we please. It's not to say that there's not consequences for what we think and do, because there are. But we have that ability. And a lot of things do not have that ability. Nothing else other than us. Well, why are we so special? What makes you special? And this is the part where the adherence to the truth tends to lose a few people. The level of understanding that you have about yourself, the amount of work that you've put in to yourself, is what tends to give people their value, their idea of what they are worth. And we look around at other people and we ask them to give us their estimation of what we are worth. We ask them for valuation. When I put out the video prior to this, I was not looking for anyone's valuation. I didn't need your validation. I don't need your validation. The comments that I saw from posting this video showed me exactly who I was dealing with, what they thought of themselves, their insecurities, their anger, their hatred, their love, their open-mindedness, their closed-mindedness. The reaction to the previous video is completely open to everyone's own personal interpretation. I posted it specifically to give you a window into your own mind. The opinion that you carry of the video for me and how it was done, it really is irrelevant. The critical thing is it should show you something about yourself. What are you bringing to each interaction? How well do you actually know yourself, and how readily will you show other people what you have within you? That is a pretty critical thing to understand, because the entirety of the understanding you will need to continue going past the plateaus that you might find yourself stuck on requires a knowledge of yourself that only you can have. You are the only one that has lived your life. You're the only one that can know what you can know. No one else gets to validate you because no one else can validate you. There's something very specific within you that when you discover it, it will be intoxicating. It'll compel you to keep trying to figure out what it is, how to use it. This power is within all of us. We have the capability, every single one of us. However, it can be very, very difficult to set enough things down so that you can start to find this little thing inside you. I say little thing, it's actually the biggest thing that we have with us at any given point in time. It's the most powerful, and it's the most misunderstood, and it's the least cared for. It makes no sense once you understand. Okay, so before we talk about what this thing is, I want to talk about a little bit of the philosophical side of belief. When you believe something, it carries authority. It carries reverence. It carries power. It might not carry power with anyone else, but when you have made the decision, when you've decided something, you attach your identity to it. So when someone says, "Oh, it's overcast. The sky is gray." And you look and you say, "It's not gray. It's white. It's white. It's a white sky. Not gray." You've decided, right? And that decision carries with it some pretty hefty consequences. When you make that decision, you put some resolve behind it. Now, everybody's got different degrees of resolve, but you put some resolve behind it. Sure enough, that's what you believe. Now, some people have a mode of behavior where once they decide something like that, it's permanent. No matter how much other information they get, they will not change their position. That's not very healthy. It can be good, but depending on the nature of the decision and whether or not that decision is actually in adherence to truth, that can be pretty awful. That can be pretty dangerous. Now, why does it carry so much weight when somebody makes a decision? Why does it carry so much authority? It's the nature of free will. The reason that it carries so much weight and authority is because we have free will. That free will, whether this is something that you agree with or believe in, is really none of my concern. Free will was granted us by God. We have the capability to decide just exactly how this is going to go, our time here. And that free will is the ultimate leap of faith. That is why our decisions have so much weight. That's why when we decide something, it's important. There's a reverence for when someone makes a decision. Now, if that decision is not adhering to the truth, there can be some pretty hefty negative consequences as a result of that. And the same thing is true in reverse. If we make a decision and it is directly adhering to the truth, then we tend to be able to experience a lot of benefit. We get to have positive things happen as a result of our understanding and adherence to the truth. And once we've made the decision and we follow that decision with intelligent plans and act on those intelligent plans, there can be a peace that's derived from those actions. They will lay the groundwork. Now, some examples of this in shooting, obviously, as we went through a moment ago, there is some very specific things that we must do if we're going to achieve success in a discipline. So, with precision rifles, obviously, you must study. You have to consume information. You have to work all of the different angles and all of the different subsections of the discipline. If you want to be good at shooting long range with a precision rifle, you better study exterior ballistics. You better sharpen up your math skills. If you plan to have success with a precision rifle at any distance, especially long range, you're going to need to study interior ballistics. You're going to have to know what's going on in that chamber, exactly how things are taking place, and this is going to carry with it the understanding of how to develop a load and how to get your rifle shooting its absolute best. You had better work on your metallurgy. You should probably know how these rifles are functioning. Your mechanical engineering, you should probably know how the rifle is functioning in terms of its ignition system and how it's timed and how all of these things are going to play together. You're going to have to understand optical engineering to some degree to understand how your optic works and what's taking place when you're dialing it. And all of your knowledge of these things are going to help you deal with the huge variances in the world. This knowledge of who you are and what it is that you're carrying around within you is going to require some effort on your part, in the sense that you can't bring anything negative with you. So what is it exactly that you're going to decide? Are you going to decide to be overtaken by bitterness as a result of some situation that's taken place that you feel is outside of your control? Are you going to continue to carry around baggage from past relationships? Are you going to continue to carry around upsetting things that happened in your childhood? Are you going to continue to carry around things that serve only to diminish you? Or are you going to decide that maybe there's more to this life? Maybe there's something within me that will open up the gateway to gain the skills, the resolve, the time, the joy, and all of the things that you need to get to the next plateau in whatever it is that you're working on. Because all of the things I'm talking about here today have nothing to do with specific disciplines. They work in every discipline. Whatever it is that you're engaged in, these concepts, this truth, this awareness of the power you have within you is going to work for all of those things. The knowledge of its presence is one thing. I can tell you, you have the most powerful thing in the universe within you. That knowledge will not change anything. It will not do anything. Not for you and not for anyone else. Your decision regarding your belief of that power, that's the key that unlocks all doors. Once you understand that you do have this power within you, then you can start going to it. You can start asking it for things. You can start believing in it. Well, why is belief so important? What difference does that make? Just because you believe something doesn't make it more or less true, right? Well, if the thing that you believe in is truth, then your belief of it gives it tremendous power, gives you tremendous power. Belief is special. Belief does some very specific things within you. If you believe something, then you have made a decision. A decision is powerful in its own right, but belief is a whole other thing. Stop looking for validation. Stop looking for justification. Instead, start searching for what it is that's in here. So, how do you cultivate this thing that's within you? How do you talk to it? How do you use it? How does it benefit you? You've perfected your form behind a rifle. You drive the rifle perfectly. You can build a firing position on anything. You can execute an honest shot, and the crosshair doesn't leave your exact point of aim by even 0.2 of a mil. Meaning that from the time that that recoil impulse starts working on you until it is completely over and that round has impacted the target, your crosshair doesn't deviate from your exact point of aim by even 0.2 of a mil. You're perfect. You're flawless. You've studied exterior and interior ballistics until you've become the foremost expert in the world. You have a knowledge of ignition timing in your rifle that no man can eclipse. You have reached a plateau and you can't get past it. What then? The next piece of this journey comes from your understanding of the infinite power that you have within you. We were all granted life. We were all granted free will. We were all given an enormous gift, and we spend every single day squandering it and thinking that we can think our way through any problem, that we're enough, that we're sufficient, that we don't need anything or anyone else. There's a lot of you out there that don't think that. And I think that's probably healthy. A little healthy dose of humility is definitely not going to hurt. But then too, we're supposed to have confidence. We're supposed to have a little bit of understanding that we're capable. We can do things. We can get stuff done, right? So having confidence in our abilities is pretty important. But belief, true belief, that is one of the most potent tools that we have at our disposal, if only we learn how to use it. If only we believe something, it can stand above all opposition. If we believe, not just think, but believe, well, where does that belief come from? That thing within that I keep referencing. We have capabilities that transcend our understanding of the physical world. We can do things that seem to defy explanation. There's instances that you can see about this all over the world. Somebody gets trapped under something and somebody comes and lifts it off of them. Superhuman in nature. A feat of strength that cannot be explained, that person that did it cannot replicate. Now, there's a lot of scientific explanations that you can throw at all of this. Well, that was just adrenaline. It was adrenaline. Yeah, it could be. Could be that the mechanics that make up our body, the functions that we have, our biochemical nature, our bioelectrical nature. Could be that it is purely scientific. Could be that there's nothing special about the way that we work. Could be. But I don't believe that. I believe that the nature of how we work is dictated by truth. I believe the nature of how we work is dictated by our belief. I believe that what we believe creates our reality. If you believe negative things, they seem to be drawn to you. If you believe positive things, that too seems to be drawn to you. So as precision rifle shooters, I ask you now, why do so many of you refuse to believe that you can hit your target? As an instructor, I have wondered this my entire career. The nature of people's refusal to believe that they can impact a target. They just simply don't believe it. They may have a small expectation. That expectation is derived from the amount of effort that they've put out, how much knowledge they think they've acquired, whether or not they think they've earned it, whether or not they find that they are not wanting. But the belief in whether or not you're going to impact your target before you send the round, that belief does not need to be tied directly to your effort. More importantly, if you do not believe, in the strictest sense of the word, that you're going to impact the target, your chances of impacting it are reduced substantially. If you don't believe that you're going to be able to make the shot, but you attempt it anyway, you are fostering the most horrible feedback loop within you that I can imagine. Because the result of whether or not you impact the target is used as fuel for all of your subsequent impacts or misses. And if that round that you just fired is a miss, and you're approaching this with that mentality, then the chances that you're going to miss the next one that you fire increases. And every subsequent miss is going to increase the chances of you missing even further. Because every time you miss, your belief in your ability to hit the target is shaken. Every time you miss, you chip a little more out of your belief. A little bit more out of your belief that you are going to hit the target. It just keeps getting eroded. This is an extraordinarily flawed way to approach shooting. Instead, regardless of your talent, regardless of your skill, regardless of the amount of time you've put in, regardless of the amount of money you've spent, equipment that you own, validation that you've received from other shooters, set it all down. Set it down right now, not tomorrow or the next time you go to the range. Set it all down right now. You don't need it. It doesn't matter. Instead, replace all of that with the belief that every single time you approach your rifle, you will impact that target. You will impose your will, your free will. You will impose your will on the target. every time, no matter who you are, no matter how much time you've spent in this discipline, no matter what equipment you have, no matter what components you're using, no matter what optic is on your rifle, you do not have to let any of the statistical information about your previous attempts, you don't have to let any of other people's validation or lack thereof affect your ability to impose your will in this world. What they think doesn't matter. What you think does not matter. What you believe, that's what matters. If you believe it, it will become your reality. Your belief will lead you to conclusions that you did not think possible. That's the nature of our conscious mind. Our conscious mind is extremely slow. Our conscious mind wants to think about things and understand. It wants to ABC, 1, 2, 3. It wants to categorize everything for easy reference later. And it requires time and effort to get there. Belief, on the other hand, belief doesn't need any of that. You can believe something and know it to be true in the face of all opposition, in the face of zero validation. You can be the only one on the planet that believes what you believe. Belief can transcend logic. You can believe something that your conscious mind isn't able to explain. You can believe something that your friends, family, and everyone that you know thinks is wrong. That is why belief is so powerful. Belief can exist in the face of evidence that would seem to contradict your belief. Through belief, you can know the seemingly unknowable. You can get an impulse from within inside you somewhere. You can get an impulse, a feeling. You don't know consciously why you're getting the feeling, but it's there. Sometimes that feeling is so strong that no matter what you're doing, you are compelled to act immediately. Despite the fact that you can't explain why, if someone asks you, you couldn't tell them. But the feeling is there nonetheless. And that feeling can carry with it a power unlike anything on this earth. Well, that should be a clue, folks. It's not from this earth. If we can agree on the fact that we are essentially a bioelectrical organism, right? The chemical makeup of what's going on in our brains and in our bodies determines what kind of electricity we've got flowing within us. I don't presume to understand it all. I really don't. Yeah, sure, I understand that a little bit, but I have no idea exactly how it all works. According to science, we use like 10% of our brains. That seems odd to me. That's always seemed odd to me. Maybe our consciousness, our conscious mind, maybe that uses 10% of our brain. Maybe. Belief is stronger than our consciousness. Belief is stronger than almost anything in the universe. When you believe something, you gain the authority that comes with that belief. And that authority, if what you're believing is true, that authority is the greatest authority in the universe. So how do you take advantage of this as a precision rifle shooter? There you are, a perfect specimen of precision rifle discipline. And you're laying behind the rifle. You've acquired your target. You've got a round chambered. Safety is off. You've taken into account all of the variables. The last little bit that you have to do behind that rifle is decide exactly where that crosshair goes in relation to your target to impose your will on it. If you are consciously thinking about this, you do not believe. All of that work that you've done, all of your understanding of ballistics, you've already computed the firing solution as best you know how. You've accounted for every variable that you can consciously think of. You've dialed that firing solution into your rifle. You've already produced the most perfect ammunition that the best equipment in the world can produce, using skills that you've developed and you're confident in. But that last little millisecond, right before you're going to press that shot, if that is coming from your conscious mind, you are crippling yourself. You are ignoring the most powerful thing in the universe, and you are proclaiming that you and your intellect, your consciousness, is enough. It is not enough. It's never been enough, and it's never going to be enough. That tiny little fraction of time between when you've decided you're going to make the shot, that now is the time, and when that shot is actually released, the placement of that crosshair must come from somewhere other than your conscious mind. It must come from belief. It must come from setting things down. It must come from releasing control. Not trying to control, but instead trying not to control. Not deciding, okay, I'm going to press the trigger now. Okay, yep, I'm going to, right now, yep. Not deciding to do it. Instead, you ask for it. You ask for the shot to be released. Once you're in that position, and once you've decided that now is the time, you step out of consciousness and you step into faith. Faith is the ultimate demonstration of belief. Faith is action and belief together. Faith is action and belief together. Without action, belief is meaningless. You can believe something and not do anything about it, and nothing will happen. You will just believe. Action is a demonstration of free will. It's a decision of free will with the force of belief that becomes faith. If you believe strongly enough that you're going to impact your target, then there's no reason why you can't. It doesn't matter how small it is, or how far away it is, or what cartridge you're shooting, what optic you have, what physical limitations you might have. All of that is just a justification to convince you that you can't. Everything your conscious mind is thinking about can affect your shot. It can affect the outcome of your shot, most definitely. It will affect your ability to execute the shot, most definitely. So why would you let the outcome of what's going to be happening on that shot, why would you let the nature of how you're going to execute the shot be affected by something that is so slow and so inefficient that most of the time it can't even control what it's thinking about. Anything can happen out here in this world. If you see it, hear it, touch it, if it can interact with you in any way, it can alter your conscious mind. So when you are doing something that is so unbelievably important as releasing a projectile from your rifle that you cannot call back, why would you ever rely on something that is that ridiculously bad at making decisions, that ridiculously bad at being able to control itself? Instead, why wouldn't you lean on the thing within you that has the capability to make unlimited calculations per second, that is boundless in its power? No one knows the limitations of humanity. No one knows what we can and cannot do. Because what I am, the essence of what creates me, the essence of what lives within me, is not knowable. It's not knowable by your conscious mind. It is certainly not knowable by somebody else's conscious mind. So the search for validation on whether or not you're going to be successful in your specific endeavor, whether or not the round that you're about to fire is going to land favorably, has nothing to do with any of that. The worst decision that you could possibly make would be to bring your consciousness into the release of that projectile. Instead, realize that your belief mixed with your action can create an unshakable faith. A faith that transcends everything that you know. Everything that anyone else knows. That precious moment when you set it all down, you disappear. Who you are, what you think you are, lives in your consciousness. Your waking mind. The part of you that ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. What you think of yourself in there is not reality. Your subconscious, that's what you know it as. That's what you've heard it referred to as before. Subconscious. That's like something less. Sub, you think of beneath. You think of something beneath. When you say subconscious, you think of beneath. Sub is something under something else. I don't believe that. Our subconscious, I believe that is our soul. That is our conduit to our Creator. That's how we are spoken to. There's nothing beneath about that. That's the most important thing that we carry around with us. It's the essence of what makes us us. I'm not sure who decided that that was to be called our subconscious, but I think it should be the other way around. This is the most important thing within us. It is our center of belief, our center of faith. When you understand what faith actually is, then you look for ways to practically apply that faith out here. To use the practical application of faith to affect what we are doing, how we are doing it. Because you cannot have faith and disbelief at the same time. If you can't bring faith into something as simple as a precision rifle shot, how do you expect to bring faith into any other aspect of your life? Because Bringing faith into a precision rifle shot is about the simplest application of it that I can think of. But yet, no matter how many people I have instructed, no matter how many people I've had a discussion about this topic with, when it comes to the actual act of releasing that projectile, executing that shot, they are always fully present. They're always consciously thinking about what's going on. And most of the time, their conscious mind is running around all over the place. They might not even be thinking about shooting. They might be thinking about something that happened at work. Of all the places when you should be focused intently on what you're doing, you don't have time to think about anything else other than the shot, other than exactly what you're doing. Once you send that projectile, once that bullet starts headed on its journey, you cannot bring it back. That carries with it some pretty serious consequences. You have to be a certain level of prideful to not give proper respect and reverence to that in the biblical sense. Pride is generally not really looked at as a good thing. So it's not good to be that prideful. Instead, we are to be humble. We are to humble ourselves, lest we be humbled. And trust me, if you haven't been humbled behind a precision rifle, you have not shot long enough. You won't even start thinking about the nature of this video if you haven't already been humbled behind a rifle. So let me be very clear about what I'm telling you and what I'm suggesting. What I'm telling you is that your belief mixed with action will create faith. Your faith will allow you to make shots that you did not think you could make. You must separate what you think from your faith, because you cannot think your way into faith. You can think your way into belief if you want. It's slow, it's cumbersome, it's not efficient. The way you think is, generally speaking, not going to be enough to get into belief properly. Instead, belief has to come from within. You simply decide, and then it's there. If you're looking for evidence and proof, you are going to spend your life looking and never have been able to take advantage of the benefit of faith, because faith does not require understanding. Faith does not require us knowing with our consciousness exactly why it exists. Faith demands that we don't know. Faith demands that we haven't thought it all through. Knowing and seeing, that's not faith. If you've witnessed something, you don't have to have faith. When you release that shot and you see the bullet impact the target favorably, you don't need faith anymore. Not in that instance. You see, you witness, and therefore you know. Your consciousness knows what happened. You don't get the benefit of faith in your next target engagement by carrying with you the proof and the evidence of the hit you just made. You don't get to have the benefit of faith in that equation. Instead, you're carrying confidence that you've witnessed. Your sense of self, your sense of worth, your value, everything that you believe about yourself, what you think about yourself, derived from the result of some previous thing that you did, that will not get you to the next plateau. Eventually, it might get you through a lot of plateaus. You might find a tremendous amount of success by using your previous successes and failures to determine the outcome and how you're going to proceed with something else that you're about to do. Faith works differently. Faith is something that you can call upon anytime you want. Faith doesn't require something specific about you. Faith doesn't require you to be X tall, or be this strong, or to have done all of this work, or to have all of these things. Faith doesn't require any of that. Faith, all it needs from you is your decision to have it. And if you decide to have faith, that faith will produce more positive results in your life than you can possibly imagine. It can produce a level of accuracy and precision from you and your rifle that you cannot possibly imagine. Because if you could imagine it, you could think your way into it, and you would not need faith. If you haven't realized that what you think and what you do and who you are is not enough to get you to the next plateau, if you haven't discovered that yet, then you simply haven't applied yourself enough. You haven't studied enough. You haven't spent enough time learning about ballistics. You haven't spent enough time learning about how your rifle functions and how to achieve proper ignition timing, how to remove resonance by having it bedded, having that action bedded properly in your stock. You haven't spent enough time learning about the variables that exist out here in the world and how it affects that bullet's flight path. You haven't spent enough time at the reloading bench. But eventually you will have spent enough time. Eventually, you will be standing all alone. You will look around, and you will see that there is no one. No one to help you get the next answer. No one to help you up. No one standing on the plateau that you're trying to get to with their hand down, reaching for you to bring you up to it. If you are in this discipline of precision rifles long enough, you will look up at the next plateau, and there will be no one up there waiting for you. When you get to that point, this is when faith will take over. This is when your faith and your execution of it will be the determining factor in whether or not you're going to proceed to succeed. It is not a thing that you force into being. It is not a thing that you go and make happen. Instead, it's a thing that you ask for and receive. You humbly ask, and you will be guaranteed to receive it. If you decide that this is something for you, you decide that you would like to shoot in faith, you can start making things happen in your life right now to start doing it. You can talk to other people of faith, and they will help you. You can talk to me. My phone number is easy to find. It's on the website, primalrights.com. I love talking to people about shooting precision rifles. It is the passion of my life. And if I can help you in your journey of faith in any way, call me anytime.